Hello everyone. Today we will be building a project. I've named this project as imagegeneration, where we will be generating images by describing the type of image that we want to generate. It's just a prompt. A prompt means where we will be giving a kind of a command to an AI model. Over here we'll be using DALL-E and OpenAI image generation model. It's already deployed. And we have API available, publicly available, so we can just send a prompt to this model, and we can get the generated images. And we have to actually register to the OpenAI to get an OpenAI key. So we'll see how to do that once we start building the project. Before that, I'll quickly show the demo of the project that we'll be building. So this is the final product that we will build. Over here you can see we have to describe the type of image that we want to generate, which is kind of a prompt. This is actually a prompt that we will be sending to the model, and there are different image sizes that DALL-E supports. 256 cross 256, 512. These are three sizes, and the number of images that we can generate at once. So for this project I have hard-coded the number of image generation to be 5, but we can generate from 1 to 10, max 10 images we can generate at once. So let's quickly try to generate something. So we'll generate what we have written over here. Why cat sitting on a little chair, let's say facing forward, and I will generate 256 cross 256, as these are small images, so it will download a little faster. So once we click on generate, we are sending this prompt to the DALL-E model, and over here you can see we have a few images generated from the image generation model. And if let's try to generate some other image, say generate an astronaut sitting in a coffee shop reading a book. So we'll be sending the prompt as it is to the model. So here you can see we have some images sent back from the DALL-E model, and if we want to download, let's say I want to download this one, so we will be building how to download the images as well in this project. So fine, let's start building this project. So for this project we will be building this project in NextJS, and in order to set up the project we'll run this command nbx create next app latest, and then the name of the project. So and the rest of the things we don't have to run. Like after latest we can just put the name of the project, and we will be building we will be styling our components with TailwindCSS. So once we run this command, after that we can come to TailwindCSS, click on get started, and then we have framework guides, and over here we can choose the framework that we are working on. So we are working on NextJS. So from here we can follow the steps to set up our project. Recently I think just now I was setting up this project, and I see TailwindCSS has been added in their project setup questions that it asks. So it has done the setup already for me, but if you don't get this question, so NextJS will not do the setup for you, where it will be installing TailwindCSS, PostCSS and autoprefixer. So what we can do is, once the installation NextJS project setup is done, we can come to TailwindCSS project, and from here we can continue, where we have to install PostCSS, autoprefixer, TailwindCSS, do the init, and in the tailwind config.js file there are two updates we have to do in two files. One is in global CSS and the other one is in tailwind.config.js file. So I can check in my file. So it has done the content, it has added. The background I don't need it now, so I will just remove the background, and yeah, and over here in the global CSS, these are three lines that we should add, and the remaining I don't want any more global styling. I don't want, so I'll just remove those. And if you follow till here, the project setup will be complete. Now what we'll do a small cleanup, because NextJS will give us a small code. It will give us with the project setup, so which we don't need right now. So we'll just remove those. So we'll remove everything in the from the main, and yeah, we don't want all this, and I'll just remove this for now, and we'll see if we'll see what do we get. And yeah, so once all the cleanup and setup is done, we'll run npm run dev command. So that command comes from here in the package.json. When we run npm run dev, it will basically run next dev. So once we run this, so we can see it is running in the port 3000 in the localhost. So we will go to the localhost 3000. So fine, we have our initial setup ready. Now let's start building the project. So as we already saw in the demo, we have the name of the project is imagegeneration, and we have so we have a header where we are putting the name as imagegeneration and everything. So let's start building it. So we'll put a header with the h1 tag, and the name is imagegeneration. So if I go back, so we have now of course you must have noticed that h1 tag is the text is very small for an h1 tag, because Tailwind actually unstyles, removes all the styles for all the h1, h2 and all the tags. Even for list and everything, it will remove the styling. We have to style using Tailwind CSS classes. So what we'll do is we'll first try to set a width for this one, for this heading. So let's say that class name, yeah, let's say the class name, because in Tailwind we have to give the style classes. So let's say we want the max width for we'll put a border first. So I'll put a border. You can see it is taking the whole width of the screen. So we don't want it to take the whole width of the screen. We just want it to take, let's say, go till 5 XL, the max width 5 XL. So this till here it is 5 XL. If you are near to Tailwind, we can see the max width. So for every style there is a class defined. So if you want to give a max width for any element, so we can give like this max w, and then how much pixel it is you can see over here. So we gave max width 5 XL, so it is 1024 pixels. Okay, now the thing is I want it to be at the center of the screen. So the best way to do is using mx auto, that is margin in the x-axis, auto, that is margin left auto. Yeah, over here you can see it says margin left auto and margin right auto, that we do in CSS. So with this you can see the div is centered in the screen. Now I want it to have some padding on the x-axis. So px -5. So you can see it has some padding on the left, and on the right also there is a small padding. Now this, if we put it px5, so this is this will work for all the screen sizes, that is xs, sm, for all the breakpoints, md, lg, xl, and yeah, it'll keep on, the padding will stay as it is. But I want this padding only for small screens. For let's say lg, I don't want any padding, so I'll just put gpx0. So this is fine. Now if I yeah, over here you can see for a small screen I have a small padding, but for lg there is no padding. So this is fine in the x-axis. Now let's style the h1 tag. So in the class name, we want a padding in the y-axis, that is vertical padding. So you can see we have some padding here. Now the size of the text, it should be a little big. So text, let's say 6XL. Now you can see I'm not writing any CSS. I'm just using Tailwind CSS classes. So over here, text 6XL. Again, if we go, you can see it's big enough. And if I go here, so font size, if we look for font size, yeah, so you can see text XS, if we use it is 12px, XL 20px. I have used 6XL, which is around 60px. Okay, so this is fine. Now I want the font to be bold, so you can see it is bold now. Now the thing is, I want to give a gradient text color. So to give a gradient in the text, it's a little tricky, where I'll show first. I'll show how to give gradient in Tailwind. So how do we do is we in the text, if we want to give a gradient, we have to give a gradient background first of all. So we'll say gradient. You can see it is giving me a suggestion, bg gradient to r, that is to the right side. Now we are saying from, and then it will go to from, and then to. So from which color to from which color it will start and to which color it should end. So we have to give. So I already have chosen one color, 009 FFF to EC2 F4B. Yeah, so you can see there's a gradient in the background now, but we want the gradient in the text. So what we'll do is, first we'll give gradient to the background. Then because we don't want the color to be all over the all over to the div, just on the background of this text. So we will give the class as inline block. So now the color is just on the background of the text. Next is we'll give the text has to be transparent. Okay, so the text is gone now because we just made it transparent. Now the last step is to make background clip text. So now you can see the text has a gradient right now. So this is fine, and maybe we can remove this border. So this is fine for me, but the thing is, I want a different font. I don't want this font. There is one font I have already thought about. I want a cursive font, so I'll just go to the Google Fonts, and I'll go to square peg. Yeah, so this is the font. If I just type imagegeneration, okay, so I'm fine with this. Yeah, so I have already chosen here. So if you don't know, so what you can do is we can come here and we can just click on yeah, I think it has only regular. So if you are using fonts with different font weights, so you can choose all the font weights. So but this font only has one weight, that is 400 regular. So we'll just select it and go here, and then over here you can see it is giving us a link and the font family. So we'll just copy this link. We'll go back to our project, and in the project you will see inside the pages there is underscore document.js. So we'll go inside the document.js, and inside the head we have to give this link. Now every there are three links. So for each we have to just close the tags. Okay, so this is done. One part is done. The other part is to declare the font family, the font that we are going to use, so that it is available for us inside the components via Tailwind. So we can just come in the tailwind config.js file, and inside the theme we are trying to extend, and in the extend we'll just mention font family, and it's basically a JavaScript object where we can give multiple font families. So this is square peg, so let's write square peg, yeah, like this. And now next what we'll do is we'll copy from here. We have already copy pasted this link. Next is we'll copy this font family from here and we will put it inside square brackets. Okay, now this font family is available for us to use via Tailwind classes. So if I come back to my next.js file, and in the h1 tag, if I go and yeah, over here I'll just say font dash square peg, and if I just refresh the page, and the font came correct, so this is fine. So this looks okay to me. Now the next thing is we'll start building the body part, where I mean the remaining part where we have the form and everything. So I'll just create another div. Okay, and this, let's say this is the form section. Okay, and in this again we'll give some class names, and over here again we need the max width to be 5 pixel. So over here you can see I'm repeating this just because sometimes the headers span the whole page, but the body or the rest of the content is restricted to some specific width. So there are a lot of designs these days. So for now I'm just repeating it, but yeah, it depends. If you think you can put a single container outside, or maybe you can restrict main with max width of 5 pixel, even that is fine. And again we'll go with MX Auto, and for now I'll just put a border too, so that we can see what we are doing. Yeah, so this is fine. And again we'll give this px. Okay, so this is okay. And yeah, so this is the nav bar or the header, this is the content, and then we'll create another div at the bottom, which will basically be the footer. So we will put it outside and we'll give a div, we'll name it footer. And over here in the footer we want we'll have basically two divs, one with the small content like all right reserved, something like that, and the other one with the GitHub link. So one we will put all rights reserved, and the other one we'll put a link. This is from the next link, and in this we'll put some we'll put an image from GitHub. So for now I'll just keep it like this or something, and alt maybe GitHub image, and we'll put something like, we'll give a class name, and I want this to have a height 7 and width 7. Okay, and the source I'll just copy this in a minute. We'll just let it be as it is, and because we are yeah, so we are using next link, so it's like an a tag, so we have to give href, and for now I'll just keep it as it is, as I have not pushed this repo in GitHub yet. And then we'll make the target as _blank so that it opens in a new tab. Okay, so this is fine. So if I go here, you can see it's all broken. So we'll again do something similar, but we want something as it is. So this is fine. Now I want both of those both these elements to be in the same row, so we'll just make it flex justify between an items center. So we have this proper, and we'll give some padding, p by 4. So this is fine, and we don't want border and from every player. We just want at the top, so we'll just remove instead of border 2 we'll just give border t. So it has actually, just to see that border, I'll give margin at the top, so margin top 3. You can see there is a small border over here, so I'll just remove it for now. Yeah, so this is done. Now the thing is, I want this border to be at the bottom, so we will give a minimum height for the form section, because I don't want it to be a sticky border. I want it to go down if the content in the form section increases, so I want it to scroll down. So what we'll do is we'll go back to the form section, and yeah, in here, and we will provide a minimum height, so min height. So let's say in a Tailwind, if we are giving a style class, so these all have predefined heights, but if the predefined heights does not meet our requirements, so we can give our own height. So over here, in order to do that, we have to give inside a square bracket. Let's say I want a minimum height of 4 px. So if I go back, you can see we have a minimum height over here, but I want a minimum height based on some calculations, so we can use calc inside. And over here I want 100 vh, sorry, I want 100 vh minus, I have already calculated, I'm deducting the heights of header and the footer, and it's like 170 px. So now if I go back, so you can see our footer is at the bottom, and it's okay. I mean, I'm fine with this. So because this is fine, so maybe I can remove this border so that we can see this properly. So our footer is at the bottom, and this is our form section. Now this will quickly style our footer before starting the form section. So in the footer, we can see it's all lowercase and no styling. So I'll just go to the footer. Yeah, so in the footer, that is for the div with this text, so we'll give, which has all rights reserved, we'll just say text sm. We want it, yeah, so this small is fine, but we want all uppercase, so we can use uppercase class. So you can see it is all uppercase now. And yeah, now the color of the text. So to give the color of the text, we can do something like this. Text, let's say I want the color of the text to be, let's say, red. So text red. Now which shade? Let's say 500. You can see on over here all the shades. This is all coming from Tailwind. Okay, I'll quickly show how, from where we can see in Tailwind. So you can see all right reserved. So to see the colors in Tailwind, we can come to palette. Yeah, so these are the colors that are available, readily available in Tailwind classes. So you can see if I want to use rose 500, so I will just say text dash rose dash 500 with purple. Similarly, I can do with purple. If I go back, so you can see this. Now the thing is, instead of we will be using a lot of colors here and there, so instead of using the colors in every tag, it's best to define a theme so that we don't have to repeat the colors, and it's very easy to change the colors as well. We just have to go and update the theme. So to do that, what we'll do is we'll go to the tailwind config.js file. So over here you can see we have a theme, and we can extend the theme. The default theme is provided by Tailwind. We can extend, we can add more colors, we can give different names so that we can access. So in the extend, inside the extend object, we'll give colors. So this will not override the existing colors, we can still use them, and we can have our own colors. Let's say I want to define a primary color. Now it doesn't always have to be a JavaScript object. You can just give some color, that will be fine. Let's say this is my primary color, this is fine, but inside the primary color I want inside the primary color object I want different shades. So I'll be defining different shades here. So let's say I want the main color, then I want a light color, then I want a dark color, and then I want contrast text. Let's say I'm using this color as a button, so I want contrasting text color also to be defined in the theme. So over here I have already chosen some colors. So for the main color I have a number, I have the X code 64748B. I think this one was, I have chosen this from the palette itself. If I go back, yeah, so I am using slate palette, and the main color is slate 500, the 500 shade. So this is my main color, and in the light, for the lighter one, I'm using this one. So if you just click on it, it is copied. So I will just paste it here. And for the dark, I'm taking one shade darker. So I'll just paste it here. And for the contrast text, I've taken this slate 50. Okay, so our theme, colors are set in the theme now. We can put multiple color objects. Let's say if there is a secondary color for errors, for success, for information, we can have multiple color objects. Okay, so I'll just go back to the footer, and instead of putting text purple this, I'll just put text. You can see it is already giving me suggestion for text primary main, so I will choose that text primary main. So if I go back, so here you can see this, it is here. Now just to see if it is like properly working, if I just make it red, or I'll just make it #FFF. So you can see it is all gone, or it's there. Let me see if red will work. Oh yeah, it is working. So you can see it is there. So I'll just switch back to what we decided. Yeah, so this is fine. Yeah, before starting the form section, I think we can just complete this GitHub logo. So in order to put the logo, you can see the you can go to github/logos, and according to what GitHub allows is only these two types of logos that we can use. So it gives us a SVG logo, so we can just download it, and it's a zip file. So we can just unzip and pick up the SVG logo, and I have already copied it. I'll just put it somewhere here. Maybe I'll just create a file with github mark.svg. Yeah, and just pasted it, and yeah, so this is fine. And the name of the file is github-mark.svg. So I'll go back, and in the image source, all I have to do is just type github-mark.svg. Okay, now if I just save it, it has to be GitHub repo. Okay, so if I go back, so over here you can see we have a nice GitHub logo. So this is fine. Okay, now let's quickly start with the form section, which is actually the main section where we will be submitting the form to DALL-E model. So in this we'll first start, we'll put a form, and inside the form we just want this form to have some margin from the top, 74, and next is in this form we want to have two columns. On the left side we will ask the user to enter the prompt, and on the right side we will have a drop down to select the image size and the generate button. So in order to do that, we have to use grids, which is very similar to grids in other component libraries like the material UI. So it is slightly different. I'll show you. So over here we'll give a class name, and this class will be a grid. So in this we'll say grid, and we'll say grid calls to, because we want two columns. In this grid. So we'll just say grid calls to. Like in other material UI component library, we normally say, because the screen has 12 grids, so we normally say like I think MD6 or something. Normally 6 we divide. So over here, if we just say 2, so it will divide the whole div into 2. And yeah, now if I give a div with, let's say, part 1, and we say part 2, so, and in both, if we give class name of, let's say, border 2, if I go back, you can see it is divided into 2 parts. Now to give a gap between both the divs, we can give gaps. I'll give a gap of 4, so you can see there's a small gap. So this is fine, and there is a small space on the top, so this looks okay. Next, what we'll do is we'll build the left part. So on the left part, we have a text area. So in the text area, I will first give a label, and the label will describe the image you wish to generate. Let's say like this, and the next will be text area. And we don't want like this, because we'll not be passing anything. We just want a closing or self-closing tag. But yeah, we will pass a few properties here. Let's say the rows, we want the number of rows to be 2, and yeah, let's see how it looks for now. Okay, so this is a small text area, and this is you can see both are together in the same row. So we'll correct it in a while. So first we'll style the label. Before that, we have to, like, if I click on this on the label, it should activate this text area. So for that, we have to give HTML for, and let's say the name, also the ID is going to be prompt, so we'll just say prompt. If I come back and if I click on this, so you can see this is fine. And the next is the placeholder. Let's say the placeholder, it's just a simple suggestion for a prompt. Generate a white furry cat sitting on a chair. So this is fine. Now let's style the prompt. We'll first finish the styling of the label. So here, class name, we want it to be block. Text size has to be SM, the font size, and then font, we don't want it to be bold or anything, we want it to be medium. And then the color, text primary main, which we have already defined. If I go back, so you can see this looks fine. Image wish to generate, it looks fine. And I want some line height, so leading 6, so it has some line height, it's okay, it looks fine. The next is, yeah, I'll just okay, next is the text area. Let's style the text area. So class name, I want it to be block again, and the width, it should take the whole width of its parent div. So if I put it like this, so you can see it is taking the whole width of the parent div. Next is when we write over here, you can see if I write, it is sticking in the left, so better put some padding. So px, let's put a padding of x on the x-axis 2 and on the y-axis 1, so this is okay. And then the borders have to be rounded, that is the corners, basically border radius. So we'll just say rounded MD. So slight, you can see there's on the corners. There's a slight curve. Now I want it to have a small shadow, so shadow dash sm slight shadow. It will have very little, and yeah, I don't want it to be resized. You can see we can resize it, so I don't want that. So there is a class in Tailwind, resize none, so it will remove that resize from here. So you can see we can't resize, so this is fine. Next, what I want is to have I want to style the placeholder color. Just yeah, so place holder. Yeah, if you want to style the placeholder, so it will come like this, placeholder colon, and then text primary maybe light. I can go with the light, so you can see it is, this one was main and this is light, so this looks fine. And the border, I want it to have some border, so border is fine. So if we give this border, so it will be of 1px, and the border color has to be primary main, so this is fine. And then outline has to be primary main, and then the size of the text has to be text dash md. Okay, so this looks fine. Maybe I can remove the border from the div. Okay, so this is fine. Another thing that I want is a small helper text at the bottom of the div, so that it gives more information what the user can do. So I'll put maybe I can put a span, and this maybe I can just mention you can give a very detailed prompt. Okay, fine. So if I come back, so you can see it has something at the bottom, but again we'll style it again. Oh, sorry. So we can say it to have a small margin from the top, then text has to be extra small, then leading will give 6, and text primary main because we want it to be visible. Okay, so this looks fine. Now the only thing is I want this text area to have some space, some margin from the top, from the label, because it is sticking at the top. So maybe I can give a margin over here, and G2. So okay, so this looks fine. Over here I can type anything, and this looks fine. The next thing is we will text primary light. I think we did not give the text inside the text primary main. So if I type something, so the color has to be main. So this looks fine. Now if I click on it, you can see the outline. So it has a border already, and when I click on it, it gives an outline which goes with the theme. So this is fine. So now the thing is on change, because I have not given an on change function. So on change, because we'll make it as a controlled component. So on change will do something, but for now we'll just leave it as it is. And even for the form submit, we have to on submit, we'll leave it as it is. Now starting with the right section, where we will have a select. Okay, so we style the class name, give width full, empty4. Okay, and we'll come back to it later. We'll see if we need it. And I'll have a label, and we'll say select image size, and we have to give select. We'll give it with some options. We'll give the options in a while, and we have to give the HTML for size, and this will be size, and in this the class name will be clock. Text sm is a text size, on the font to be medium, leading 6, text primary main. We can actually have a separate component, a reusable component for labels as well, so because all the labels in the forms in all our application should look the same. So because we don't have that big form, so I have just, it's kind of repeating here, but yeah, we can separate it out into a separate component. And yeah, coming back to the select over here, we will give the class, yeah, so the class name will give let's say with full, and px2 and py3. Okay, I think before coming into this, I'll just we should quickly go back and see over here. Actually, there is nothing at the moment, so we'll better give some options in the select tag. So there are 3 sizes as we saw in the demo. So what we'll do is we'll create a separate object, a JavaScript object for image sizes, and we'll use that here. So we'll say image sizes is equal to, yeah, we'll have a value 256 cross 256, and the label we'll keep it as 256, because we have to pass this value in the request to the model. So we'll do it like this. We have a value. Similarly, we will have this as 512 cross 512 and 1024 cross 1024. So this looks fine. We'll iterate through these. Yeah, and in the image sizes we have the value and okay, so before that we'll just, yeah, we'll destructure it. We have a value and a label, and we can maybe just pull out index, so it's not, maybe we can use the value as well for the key. Okay, now the option, and in here we'll go our label, key will put the index, and the value will put the value. If I go back, so here you can see, so this is fine, it is coming properly. Now we just have to style it so that it goes with our theme. So in this class name, in the select, we'll just make it a rounded MD like we did for the other one. Then shadow, we can give a small shadow sm. We'll give a border of 1, and then the border has to be of primary main. Outline again has to be primary main. Text size is MD, and if I go back, so this is looking fine, but the text color again has to be primary main, so you can see it goes with the theme. If I click on it, yeah, it goes with the theme. Now again, there is a small there's no margin, so maybe we can give a small margin of 2. Yeah, so there is a small gap between the label and the select box. I remove the border, so this is fine. It looks okay. Now we'll quickly build a button. So we'll put the button, we have yeah, we can put a button here, and the button has to be, let's say, generate. Yeah, so this is fine. We'll quickly style the button, so we'll just put it inside a div, and over here in the div we'll give empty maybe 5, and we want the button to be on the right, and if I see, so it is okay, it is on the right, but it's not styled because Tailwind just removes all the styling, so we have to style using the Tailwind classes. So let's style it. So rounded MD, want rounded MD. Then the background we want of the primary main, so this is fine. And if I go back, so you can see there is no padding or anything, so we can give a small padding px on the x-axis 3, py will give a padding of 2, so this looks fine. Yeah, now on hover we want the color to become a little darker, so primary main. So if I go back and if I hover, you can see it's getting darker, and the text has to be primary contrast text that we gave in the theme. So here you can see we have a good contrast text. The font, maybe we can go with semi-bold font, semi-bold, it's okay. And we'll give a small shadow SM. We'll give a small shadow, yeah. And then we will and then if the button is disabled, let's say when we click on the button, so it will be generating, so we have to disable the button. So when it is disabled, we want the color of the background to go a little light, so maybe we can go with this. And once it is disabled, we don't want the cursor on it, so we'll just say cursor not allowed when it is disabled. So we can quickly check how it will look when it is disabled. Okay, so currently this looks fine, but once it is disabled, let's say true, so you can see the cursor is not allowed and it is a little light in color. So this is fine. Now this, because this is because this is inside a form, so we want this button to be of type submit, so that we can submit a form. Type submit is fine. And once we click on this button, we have to we need a state of loading, so that we can control disabled true and false. So we'll quickly create one state here, const loading, set loading with react dot use state, and it will be false. So import react, okay, and we will use this loading in disable true. If it is loading, so it will be true and we'll make it disabled. And if it is loading, we will say, if it is loading, then we don't want it to say generate, we want it to say generating. So this will be good, generating. So I think this is fine. Now quickly we'll go back to the text area, that is the prompt, and in the select, because both we will have to update the onChange function, like in here. Yeah, so we'll quickly go back to in here we'll create two states. Dot use state. Okay, so this is for the first we'll create for the prompt set prompt, and we'll keep this as an empty string. And next we'll create for the size, because that is what the image size we are setting. And over here we can give a default, that is image sizes not value. This will be the default one. Now we'll create two functions, one function in fact. We'll create one for the handle submit, and this will be called when we submit the form, which is over here, handle submit. And once the form is submitted, we will be making an API call inside this, so we'll make it async, and we'll be using the prevent default to stop the page from reloading, and then we will say set loading to true, so that our spinner or yeah, set loading in the end we'll put as false. So this looks fine. Now in here we will make the API call. Now before making the API call, let's just console.log the data that we will be sending. So the data that we will send is the prompt and the size. So prompt and size, so this is fine. Now on change of text area, we have to update the prompt. So we will say on change, we'll say set prompt e.target value for the text area. Similarly for the select statement, sorry, for the select tag, we will say set size e.target.value. So yeah, so this looks fine. Now let's quickly go back to our page. I just reloaded it. Will open the console. I'll stick it at the bottom and we'll go here and let's say test 1 2 3. We'll select 1 0 2 and click on this. You can see we have a prompt, we have size, so this looks fine. If I go again, it is changing. If I click again, it's changing. So this is fine. So the next thing that we have to do is we will build an API which will take this prompt and send the request to DALL-E and generate the images for us. So we have already created the onSubmit function for the generate button. So this is fine. Next we'll do is we have to build the API which we will call once we click on generate. So to do that, we'll go back to our editor and we'll go inside the pages API, and over here we already have one hello world. So we'll just create a new file and we'll call it as generate.js. Okay, so we have it here. Now in order to make an API call to OpenAI, we can either use their endpoints directly or we can use an OpenAI npm package. We will use an OpenAI npm package, so we'll just install npm i OpenAI, and yeah, once we install it, then we'll go back to the editor, and OpenAI basically gives us we can use the completion model or the chat model, or we can use DALL-E like image generation model. So a lot of features are there. So it's good to use this package, so that's why I'm using. And from here we'll be using we'll be importing configuration and OpenAI API. So in the configuration, we'll create a config object. Let's say configuration. Yeah, so in this we have to pass the OpenAI API key. Now and that OpenAPI key, we should not put it directly in the code. We should put it inside our root. In the root of the project, we will create a file.env. We should not add it. So it should not be added to. We should not add it, and in fact this should be put inside git ignore. So I'll just go in here and I'll just add git ignore, and in this file we will create one variable OpenAI underscore API underscore key, and I will get the OpenAI API key and we'll just paste it here. Before that, we'll just complete the code here. So in that API key, once again, configuration. Yeah, so the API key we will be will not be pasting it here. We'll just take it from the environment variable. So process.env.OpenAI underscore API underscore key. So once we run this project, from the environment variables we can pick the OpenAI API key. Now next step is to create the OpenAI object by passing the configuration to OpenAI API like this. So now this OpenAI has different functions that we can use, and we can create new objects for or we can make API calls using this. So we'll see how to do this. So first we'll create a handler function that is for the for this serverless function. So we'll create export default and async. function, let's call it handler. Okay, and this is very similar to express, so it has request response parameters, and the prompt and size will be sending as a post call from the front end, so we can extract it from the request.body. We'll be sending a prompt and the size. Next is we'll see if this is kind of a default check. If the configuration.api key is missing, then we'll return an error status with the status as 500 .json, and I will give an error with the message API key missing. So this is for a check if the API key is missing. Similarly, we can do a check just in case the size and the prompt is missing. So we can do something like prompt dot trim dot length equal to 0, or size dot trim dot length is equal to 0. So in that case, we'll just return response status, because it's user error, as the user has not sent anything to us, so we will be returning 400, and the message is going to be or image size missing. So this is fine. So we have done some error handling here. Next is, let's make the API call and return the response. So we will put it inside the try catch block with the error. So this is fine. Now we'll make an API call. So we'll create a variable response, and we'll await with OpenAI dot create image. So you can see we have create completion, we have create chat completion. Chat completion is for chat GPT. API completion is for GPT-3. This is GPT 3.5 turbo model, and this is create images for our DALL-E. So in this we have to pass a prompt. So prompt we already have. Then n is the number of images that we want to generate. So we can put max 10, and if we don't give it, it's going to be 1, default 1. And the size, so over here you can see it has these 3 sizes, and default is going to be 256 cross 256. So size, we are anyhow catching it from the user request. And the last is we have to give a user. Now this user is something we have to understand, because if we make this website public and we ask user, we give the API to the user to generate, so we have to make sure that we pass if we are implementing a login feature for a web application, so make sure we pass a hashed value of maybe an email address or the user ID of that user. It should again be hashed. It should not be as it is, so that we can trace back, because the user might generate anything which might be against the usage guidelines of DALL-E. So we have to make sure that if anything like that happens, we should know, we can track the user. And and it's something that OpenAI expects us to send. So over here, because I'm the only user and I'm not going to publish it, so I'll just put something, maybe test123, but test123 is not the correct string to send here if you are publishing it and you are giving it to the people to use. Okay, so over here this is fine, test123, we're just giving it. And let's say so this will make an API call, and we will just get the data out of a response. So once we get the response, the data from the response is response.data, and we will return the response with the res.send, and we will send the data like this, or we can just say response dot data. Maybe we don't need this. Yeah, we'll just return the data from there. And just in case there is some exception, so maybe we can just console.log that error so that we can see, and we can return the response with start status, let's say 400, not JSON error with a message. So so our this is complete. Our API is complete. So over here the response, I'll just over here, once we make a request, the response that we get is nothing but a list of image URLs. So the image that we get from DALL-E in response is nothing but a list of URLs. So we can just directly put it in our website, that URL, and we can show the image. So the API is complete. Let's go back to our on submit handle submit function, and over here we will quickly make an API call to that API that we just built. So we'll just say let response equals await fetch, and we are making an API call to API slash generate. Okay, and this is going to be a post call, so I'll just make a method is going to be post, and body is going to be json dot stringify, and this it's going to be prompt and size, and the headers, we can give multiple headers. Over here it is content type applications / JSON. So this will fetch us the response. Now if the response is okay, what we are going to do is we are going to we have to get the response object. So I'll just say response.json, and then we'll set I think we did not create, we'll create one more state here, which is images, for all the images that is being returned, images, and this will keep it as empty array, and we'll come back here, and if the response is okay, we'll just say response.data, because from there we are sending data. And once we have the images with us, so next what we can do is we can display those images in here, that is under the form. This is the form. Over here under this we can display all our images. So over here we'll quickly make a class with empty dash. Will give a small margin and a small padding, because we're giving a padding because we want a small border at the top. So we'll give border T, it will have a thin border at the top. And next is we want the image to be displayed here. So we can do something like this. If we have images, so we'll say images.length. We are just checking if we have an image. So we'll just say images.length greater than 0. So we'll do something else. We'll show something else. So if the images.length is greater than 0, so we will maybe we'll give a div. Otherwise maybe we can tell here show here maybe inside a div we can just say no data to display. Okay, so we will see how we can improve this. For now we'll just continue to write what to do when the images are generated. So in the demo I showed that there were a few columns. I think there were 4 columns or 3 columns of images. So that's what we will be doing, but as we reduce the size of the screen, I want the minimum number of columns to be 2, so that 2 images at least can be in a single row. So let's create a grid. We'll say grid and then grid calls to. So grid will create a grid, and then each grid will have 2 columns. So this is fine. That is for XS, it will be 2. Then for SM, I want the grid columns to be 3 because the screen size will be a little big, so we can accommodate 3 images. And then for MD and above, I want the grid to have 4 columns, and then we'll give a gap, let's say of 4, and we'll see how we can improve this. Okay, so this is the container basically for the grids. So inside this we will pass, we'll iterate through each image. So we have images dot map. Now every image that is being returned has a URL. That's the only thing I'm returning from the backend. So over here we have a URL, and we will maybe use index so that we can pass it to the key. And then in here, inside this we will put some image. Let's say we'll put source as a URL and AI rated image. Okay, now we are not doing any styling or anything because we just want to see if any image is getting generated. Once it is getting generated, we'll see how to style individual image card and how to handle no data to display and everything. Let's go back, and okay, so our UI is disturbed. Okay, so we did something wrong here in the UI. So if I just quickly see, in the main we were supposed to have I think I have to put this inside this div. Let's see if this is correct. Yeah, so this is fine. So let's quickly generate a few images. We'll just say astronaut in at MACD. Okay, and 256, and okay, I think we got some error or maybe some exception. If I just inspect, if I click on this, so we are getting an error. Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, I forgot to put an API key. So let's put the API key. To get the API key, what we can do is we can go to openai.com, and this for developers we can go to API reference, and then in the API reference you can go here and you can go to view API keys. You can click on this create new secret key, and once your API key is created, you can maybe I can quickly generate one. So I have generated, and I'll go back, I'll go in here, I'll just paste it. Now if I go back to my application, if I click on generate, you can see it is generating, and this is a generate function. Okay, generate, and over here it has returned the data, but okay, so it was data. So that is something wrong in the backend that we did. So we'll go back, and over here we'll just say data, and if we go back and if we click on generate, let's see if we get something back. Yeah, I think we got something. Okay, so we are getting the images, and it looks fine. If I reduce the size of the screen, because we used grid, so you can see this is properly getting handled. The only problem I see is in here. So this is something that we can quickly fix in the UI, because this should come in the second row. Yeah, so to fix this, because for small screens I want this to come in the bottom, so we'll go back to inside the form where we created the first div. I will just say grid calls 1, and we want calls to for MD. We don't want it for small screens, we want it only for MD. So now if we go back, so you can see for big screens, for MD or greater, we have 2 columns, but for smaller ones we have a single column. Another thing is, let's quickly style the image card that we are getting. So we will quickly create, instead of doing everything here, we will create one separate component. We'll create a separate component. Where is the image? We'll create a separate component and we'll pass it here. So let's call that component as image card, and okay, so from this image card we will be implementing the download image feature as well. So we might need some states. So for now, instead of this, this is what we would. So we will be required a URL, and because we will be making an API call to download the image, so we will need async. So this one. So we will need we'll be using async. Okay, so instead of returning just the image, we'll return a div. Now in that div, we want we'll style the class with padding 1, then background you want it to be transparent, and then you will use relative, because we will have a download button which will be absolute. MB we are giving 5, and W full, so that it can take all the width of that grid. Okay, so this is for the base container. Now for the image, we will have class name. For height, we'll keep it as auto, and on hovering of the image, we want to have slight opacity change. Let's say opacity 75. So this should be fine. Next is the image tag in itself. We will be passing the image. So image will be nothing but a URL. Height is auto, and width is 100%, and the class name we will say rounded MD, and we want object contain. And I am not sure if this auto will be enough. We'll see. We'll just test if we can remove this auto from here. Fine. So this is for the image, but we want a download button as well, so that we can download. We can click on that button, we can download. So in the class name, we'll say absolute, and on the right side we'll push to the right, and top 4, and we'll I'll just put, for now we'll use an icon in a while. For now we'll just put it like this, and let's see what we get if we use our image card in here. URL, we'll pass the URL. Okay, so let's generate a paper boat on a computer table. Let's see what do we get. Okay, so got some error. Okay, so I got the issue. I mistakenly put async here in the component. We will not put async in the component. For download, I'll be creating another function that will be an asynchronous. So it's okay. It's fixed. We'll test it again. Maybe we'll just put download just div. We'll replace it with a button. So now if I go back and if I put again a paper boat on a computer table, if I click on generate, now let's see the images that we get. So you can see we have images generating, and once we hover, you can see there is slight opacity, so this looks fine. Next we'll work on this button. We'll style this button, and we will build the API to download the same. Okay, so now let's design the download button and implement the download functionality. So once we click on the download button, the flow is, once we click on the download button, we will be making an API call to our API, because we can't directly fetch make a fetch API call to the DALL-E image, because it's giving CORS error from the front end. So from the front end we can't do it, so that is why we have to make an API call so that we can do it from the server. So once we click on this download button, we'll set loading true so that we can show a spinner, because the image is it will take some time for the image to download. So till that time we can set the loading true, and we can show a spinner, and initially the loading is false. So yeah, so if loading is true, maybe we can show a spinner, but for now we'll just say loading for now. We'll replace it with spinner after we finish the implementation. And if it is not loading, then of course we'll have a download button. And yeah, so we'll implement the on click. We'll name it something like download image, and in the image we'll pass the URL that we got from here, and we will make a function here, download image. Okay, and I will pass the URL, and yeah, so to download we will get one button icon. So we will get it maybe from React icons. So from React icons, maybe we can go with download. Yeah, maybe we can go with this one. So before that, we'll just quickly install React icons. So npm I icons, and from here, from the documentation, we can see it says import icon name from React icons /bs. So okay, and we will put that icon here, and we can give size color. So we'll give a size of 18, and we'll slightly style the button so that it looks good with the with that icon inside it. So in the class name, yeah, so say rounded full for it to be a circle and not be, yeah, rounded full. Then maybe we can give a background of white, and we want it to be visible only when we hover on it, so we'll say hidden. And so when we hover on it, so yeah, so in Tailwind we can use the group class. So once we hover on the image, we want one of its child to become visible. So which one should become visible? We can do it using group. So this is our image card. Now as soon as we hover on the image card, so once we hover, now we can control the UI of its child components. So over here, once we hovered on it, so it is hidden, so we'll say group hover. So if we hover on the group that is on the parent, as soon as we hover, we want it to become blocked because it's hidden by default. And maybe we can say yeah, let's yeah, when we hover only on that button, on our download button, we want the background of that button to become light, background primary light. Okay, so now if we go, we'll quickly test this as well. We'll just see if we are getting the URL, and then we will implement that feature. Fine. So as soon as we hover, we'll see this download button, and we will let's regenerate because I think, yeah, let's regenerate and see if our download button is looking good. So let's write a prompt, maybe the pencil box, I don't know. Let's see, and we'll see if the download button is fine. Okay, so the download button is fine. Okay, now if I go to inspect and if I click on this, so we can see the URL getting printed. So this is fine. We will what we will do next is we'll implement the download image API, and then we'll come back and we'll finish this download image function call. So over here we'll create a new API and name this just download. Okay, and now this is again going to be a serverless function. So in here we will make an API call to that URL, and then we'll fetch and then we'll send back as an attachment. So over here, in order to make an API call from the node backend, we can use node fetch. So we will install npm install node fetch. Now with node fetch, I was facing an issue with the latest version, so I had to download one specific version because I was facing some buffer related issues. So when I downgraded to this version, so it will start working fine. So I think there is some issue with the latest version. So yeah, so you can try if you also face the same issue. Maybe you can try with downgrading. So once we install it, so we will be using import fetch from node fetch. Yeah, so this works pretty much how fetch works on the browsers. So export default async function handler request response. Okay, so because we'll be making a post call from the front end, so we will extract the URL from the request.body. Now once we have the URL, we will make a post call. So I'll say let response equals await fetch URL. Now it's just a get call, so we don't need anything else. Next is if response not okay. So what we'll do is the response object, from the response object we can convert to JSON object or text or buffer, so depending on the response type. So over here, because it will be a buffer, so we'll say image buffer equals await response dot buffer. Okay, now once we have the image buffer, in order to send back the response, we have to set the header. In the response header, we have to set two headers, that what is the content type and the content disposition as an attachment with the file name. So we will do set header, like in Express I think it is response.set. In NextJS it is set header. Content type, it is image/png, because all the images are png, and set header again. Disposition and attachment, and over here we can attachment, and over here we can give the file name. Now these values we can actually extract from the front end, from the headers we can pick these values, but over here there's actually no specific file name, so I'm just giving anything. But yeah, if you are maybe sending a file from some server to the client. So if you want to send the file name, so you can actually send the correct file name from here. Okay, so file name image.png. Now we'll just send image buffer. Now next what we have to, our API is ready. Next what we have to do is we have to just make a post call to /API/download from the front end. So we'll make a call from here. So as soon as we click on download, we want to set loading to true, and then we'll make a call. Let response equals await fetch. We don't need that because this is on the client, so we can fetch is available in I think all the browsers. Okay, now over here we will be sending the method to be post, then body is going to be json.stringify URL, and nothing else we have to send. Then headers will send application JSON. Okay, so this is for now this will send the request to our API. Now once we get the response, so we can say if response.ok, then we can otherwise we can just say console.error, some error, we'll see it later. Yeah, so if the response is fine, so we'll just say response equals await response dot blob. Yeah, so the thing is we are getting a buffer in the response, so we'll convert this into blob, because I'm converting this because we will be using one more npm package here, that is file saver. Now file saver is a good package for downloading images from a URL, or if you have a blob. So we will just install npm i file saver. Now from the file saver we can import file saver. Now once we have the blob, in fact I should maybe name it const blob. So once we have the blob, so we can just pass it to file saver as save as the blob and some file name. So we'll just say image.png. But if you are sending the file name from the backend, then before putting here, maybe over here we can extract, and after this line we can extract the file name from the response header and we can put it in here. So this looks fine. The only thing is the spinner. Over here we have set this to loading. To get the spinner, maybe what we can do is we can go to maybe this tailwind components. Tailwind elements. So from here there is, I found one spinner component here. Yeah, so maybe we can use some spinner component like this. Maybe we can just copy this and we can create one directory as components, and we can put spinner and export default function spinner, and we can return our spinner. And just okay, so you can see it says animate spin, so it will basically animate the spinner. Another thing is we can style it according to our theme. So over here we can see there must be something with the color. If it is not, then maybe we can put our own, because I think because it is not going to be black, so we can just put text primary main. Okay, fine. So now if we go back to index.js, instead of this, we'll just pass the spinner and we will import it. Fine. So I think this looks okay. Now let's try to run. Yeah, so yeah, you can see once I clicked on download, it has downloaded the image. Oh yeah, but it is still spinning because we did not set the spinner to false, so set loading to false, so we have to do it. So if I come here and if I, yes sir, this went fine. If I look at the image, the image is downloaded. The next thing is maybe the last thing, where once there is no data, so we don't have any, it's better to show some something in here. So I pulled out some SVGs from undraw. From undraw, I was from here we can find a lot of SVG. Okay, so I was able to find the SVG for the demo that I use in the demo. So this is the one. So we'll just download the SVG, and once it is there, so maybe we can, yeah, so this is SVG. We can, yeah, we can copy this SVG as well. From here we can just say copy element, and we can go to public, and over here we'll create a file, no data.svg, and we'll just save it. So we have it here, and yeah, over here you can see the this does not go with our theme, so we can maybe we can change it. I think it was this one. Yeah, this one and this one. Similarly 3ff, yeah, and over here we have this one and this one. So all the reds will replace with our main color, so which is this. So if I go back in here, we'll just replace with our, fine. So this is according to our theme. I'll just save it. Now I'll go back to no data to display. So this is what we will change now, and once we click on over here, yeah, over here also you can see we have loading. So once we are fetching the data, so we have that loading state, so we can use that to tell the user that we are still loading or generating the images. So if we are generating the images, so we can do something like inside the div, so we will give a paragraph, we'll say generating images, and in the image we'll keep our file which is in nodata.svg. Okay, and of course no data image, and this the size of this we can maybe put as 1/3, 1/3 of the width for XS. Then for maybe SM we can have 1/5 after that, and then height we will keep auto, And yeah, for generating it has to be text MD, text primary main. We'll keep the font as bold, and MY will keep 10. Now for this whole div, maybe we can style it to have height of 100%. We'll keep flex and flex call because we want generating at the top, and then at the bottom we want that image. Then we can have justify center and item center. Okay, so this is for loading. And now if the images are generated, we have the image. Next thing is we will so once the images are generated, we will show the image. So this part is done, but if there is nothing to show at that time, we will again do something very similar, maybe exactly the same. It's just that over here we'll say no data to display. Okay, so let's go back to our so this is how it will look. If I refresh the image, we can see this goes with our theme, and there's no data display. And now if let's generate something, we'll say paper boat on dining table. And you can see it is generating images. It changed to generating images. Now once the images are generated, so we have these images. Now if I want to download, so it is the spinner is coming, the download is working, we have the images downloaded. Now one last thing that I want to show is regarding the API. I forgot actually to show the DALL-E API, how we can know about it, how we can read more about it. So maybe if I go to API reference in OpenAI, if we go to OpenAI API reference, so in the images, these are you can see the actually in DALL-E we can request the image. Like this is what we are doing, we are sending a prompt, number of images, the size. So these are the 3 that it supports. Then the response format, whether you want URL in response or you want v64 JSON. So it's it depends on your need. Then user, a unique identifier to identify the user, to detect abuse, like I already told about it. Now there are more things that we can do, like editing an image. If there is an image we want to extend that image, so we can upload an image and it will generate an image for us. So then definitely over here the parameters are different because we have to send one image. So I think it has to be a URL, and then we have a prompt. And so I couldn't cover this image editing part. I think if we can read more about it, was in the documentation, I think, in the model, image generation. Over here. So you can see for the editing part, this is over here exactly we want, this is our image. Over here we have given a mask, so the output DALL-E has created some image on this part. So for sure we can go we can read more about this model, how we can make use of it, and so we can maybe build more projects, something with this model. Fine, so this is complete. I will be posting this in GitHub, and I will put the link in here and as well as in the description of this in the YouTube video. Okay, thank you very much.